Over the years, I had heard different people's interpretations of Buddhism. Uh, People call it by many different things, but the definition that caught my attention the most is this idea that Buddhism is somehow a philosophy. Um, and I thought that I would give a little explanation to help to give a better understanding. So it's about this idea of Buddhism as a philosophy. Oftentimes, Buddhism has been referred to as a philosophy. The word philosophy is a combination of two Greek words, philo, meaning love, and sophia, meaning wisdom. Therefore, philosophia is literally translated as the love of wisdom. It is concerned with speculating about the infinite possibilities of any given topic in order to try to understand it better. While there is beauty and value in this approach towards understanding life, and you certainly can philosophize about Buddhism, it has its inherent limitations, and lingering there misses the entire point of what the Buddha was trying to teach. You see, philosophy remains within the confines of the mind, whereas what the Buddha taught was to utilize the mind to question and understand his teachings more clearly in order to help one go beyond the mind, transcending all phenomena. The Buddha also expressed how excessive thinking is tiresome, while philosophy's entire premise is based upon thinking. The Buddha advocated to his bhikkhus, which are his monks, that thinking should be used only when needed and to be in mental quietude when not. I have included some verses below to illustrate his point in the subject from the Nikayas, which I think will help bring a little more understanding of this point. If one reads directly from the Nikayas, which are the original words of the Buddha, what they will quickly recognize is that what they are reading are actually instructions with many different explanations aimed at helping them to understand those instructions. So, Buddhism is, in fact, primarily a practice that utilizes thinking and discussing in order to understand the practice better. Mind you, if meditation is not a primary part of a Buddhist practice and instead leans more upon learning and debating, then it will not lead one to nibbana, but to more suffering. So I will read a few of the verses that I have here. This first one is from the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 435. He, the bhikkhu, thinks any thought he wants to think, and does not think any thought he does not want to think. He wills any resolve he wants to will, and does not will any resolve he does not want to will. He has attained mastery of the mind with regards to the pathways of thought. This next one is from the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 21, 2.2. Owing to the presence of desire, they arise. Owing to the absence of desire, they do not arise. But, sir, what gives rise to desire? Desire, ruler of the gods, arises from thinking. When the mind thinks about something, desire arises. When the mind thinks about nothing, desire does not arise. But, sir, what gives rise to thinking? Thinking, ruler of the gods, arises from this tendency to proliferation. When this tendency is present, thinking arises. When it is absent, thinking does not arise. So proliferation is basically, or the difference between proliferation and thinking is that thinking brings forth ideas and concepts in order to understand something better or to enjoy the thought, whereas proliferation implies the habitual tendency to think. So although they're connected, they're two separate things. This next verse is from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 26:19. I considered thus, this Dhamma that I have attained is profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, thinking, unattainable by thinking, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. But this generation delights in worldliness, takes delight in worldliness, rejoices in worldliness. This next verse is from the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 5, verse 28. Furthermore, with the stilling of directed thoughts and evaluations, he enters and remains in the second jhana, rapture and pleasure born of composure, unification of awareness, free from directed thought and evaluation, internal assurance. So again, we're talking about the cessation of thinking. Although here, it's not really thought which is being talked about. It's more awareness of the thinking. There's a kind of attentiveness, and there is a discernment that goes on, which helps us to be able to recognize that we are engaging in thoughts, engaging in thinking, to recognize what happens when we engage in thinking, and then to come to the understanding, to the recognition that this engagement of thinking is not beneficial for going deeper into meditation. So this is actually what this directed thought and evaluation really means. And the last verse is from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 20. Now I'm going to read this a little slow. And what basically the Buddha enumerates here are the different qualities that a bhikkhu has developed in order to arrive at a place of no thought. Bhikkhus, when evil, unskillful thoughts, which arise due to reflection upon adventitious objects, are eliminated, when they disappear and the mind stands firm, settles down, becomes unified and concentrated upon his subject of meditation, through his reflection on an object connected with skill, through his pondering on the disadvantages of unskillful thoughts, his endeavoring to be without attentiveness and reflection as regards to those thoughts, or through his restraining and subduing, that bhikkhu is called a master of the paths along which thoughts travel. The thoughts he wants to think, that he thinks. The thought he does not want to think, that he does not think. He has cut down craving, removed the fetter, rightly mastered pride, and made an end to suffering. All right, that's it. I hope I helped to make things more clear. And have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.